Sarah Martinez wiped down the counter of the small coffee shop for the third time that morning. Her hands moved in careful, precise motions, the same way she did everything else in her life. The morning rush had died down, leaving only a few customers scattered across the cozy space she had grown to love over the past 6 months. The bell above the door chimed, and Sarah looked up to see 3 women she recognized from the neighborhood. They were regular customers, but not the kind that made her day brighter. Jessica, the blonde with perfectly styled hair, led the group. Behind her came Monica and Diane, both wearing expensive workout clothes and carrying designer handbags that probably cost more than Sarah made in a month. "Oh, look," Jessica said loudly enough for everyone in the shop to hear. "It's our little mystery woman. Still playing house with your coffee beans, Sarah?" Sarah forced a smile and nodded. "Good morning, ladies." The usual. "Actually," Monica chimed in, settling onto one of the high stools at the counter. "We were just talking about you yesterday. Weren't we, girls?" Diane laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the peaceful atmosphere. "We were wondering what someone like you is doing in a neighborhood like this. I mean, this coffee shop is cute and all, but surely you have bigger dreams?" Sarah continued cleaning, her movements steady despite the uncomfortable attention. "I'm happy here. Can I get you something to drink?" "Happy?" Jessica leaned forward, her voice dripping with false concern. "Sweetie, you work in a coffee shop. You live in that tiny apartment above the bakery. You drive that ancient Honda that sounds like it's about to die any minute. Is that really happiness, or is that just settling?" The other customers in the shop had grown quiet, some pretending to read their newspapers while obviously listening to the conversation. Sarah felt heat creep up her neck, but she kept her voice steady. "I like my life just fine, thank you. Now, what can I get for you?" Monica exchanged a look with her friends. "You know what we think? We think you're hiding something. Nobody just moves to a place like this and works in a coffee shop without a story." "What's your story, Sarah?" "I don't have a story," Sarah replied quietly, finally meeting Monica's eyes. "I just work here." "Come on," Diane pressed. "Everyone has a story. Did you run away from something? Are you in some kind of trouble? We've never seen you with friends, never seen you go out. It's like you're afraid of something." Sarah's grip tightened on the cleaning cloth, but her voice remained calm. "I keep to myself. That's not a crime." "It's weird, though," Jessica said, sliding off her stool and walking around the counter as if she owned the place. "A woman your age, alone all the time. No boyfriend, no husband, no family visiting. It makes people wonder." "Wonder what?" Sarah asked, though part of her didn't want to know the answer. "Wonder if you're really who you say you are," Monica said with a smirk. "I mean, Sarah Martinez? That sounds made up to me, like something someone would use if they were running from their real life." The accusation hit Sarah like a physical blow, but she managed to keep her expression neutral. "That's my name." "Prove it," Diane challenged, pulling out her phone. "Show us some ID. Show us pictures of your family. Show us anything that proves you're not just some runaway hiding out in our neighborhood." "I don't have to prove anything to you," Sarah said firmly, but her hands were shaking now. Jessica moved closer, invading Sarah's personal space. "See? That's exactly what someone with something to hide would say. What are you hiding, Sarah? Are you married to someone who hurt you? Are you in witness protection? Are you—" "Stop." Sarah's voice was sharper now, and several customers looked up from their tables. "Just stop. Order something or leave." "Oh, we struck a nerve," Monica said gleefully. "Come on, Sarah. We're just being friendly. Neighbors looking out for each other. If you're in some kind of trouble, maybe we can help." "I'm not in trouble," Sarah said through gritted teeth. "Then why won't you talk about your past?" Diane pressed. "Why won't you show us any proof of who you are? Why do you jump every time someone knocks on your door? Why do you look over your shoulder when you walk down the street?" Sarah stared at them, realizing they had been watching her more closely than she'd thought. She had been careful, but apparently not careful enough. "We've been paying attention," Jessica said, as if reading her thoughts. "You think we don't notice, but we do. The way you park your car differently every day. The way you never use the front door to your apartment. The way you paid cash for everything when you first moved here. Those are just habits," Sarah said weakly. "Habits of someone who's hiding," Monica corrected. "And We're tired of wondering. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell us the truth about who you really are, or we're going to make your life here very uncomfortable." "What's that supposed to mean?" Sarah asked. "It means," Diane said, pulling out her phone, "that we start asking questions around town. We start telling people that we think you're not who you claim to be. We start suggesting that maybe people should be careful around you. After all, if you're hiding something, it might be dangerous." Sarah felt her carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. She had chosen this town specifically because it was small and quiet, where she could blend in and be forgotten. But these three women were threatening to destroy the peace she had worked so hard to build. "You can't do that," she said quietly. "Watch us," Jessica replied. "Unless, of course, you want to save us all some trouble and just tell us the truth right now." The coffee shop fell completely silent. Even the espresso machine seemed to have stopped hissing. Sarah looked around at the faces staring at her, some curious, some concerned, some already suspicious thanks to the seeds these women had planted. "Fine," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "You want to know who I am? My name is Sarah Martinez. I moved here 6 months ago from California. I work here because I like coffee and I like this town. That's it. That's the whole story." "Liar," Monica said flatly. "That's not a story. That's a cover story. What happened in California? Why did you really leave?" "Personal reasons," Sarah replied, but even she could hear how weak it sounded. "Not good enough," Diane said. "We want details. We want names. We want proof." "I don't owe you anything," Sarah said, her temper finally beginning to show. "You have no right to interrogate me like this." "We have every right," Jessica shot back. "We live here. Our kids play in this neighborhood. If there's someone dangerous living among us, we need to know." "I'm not dangerous," Sarah said desperately. "Then prove it," Monica demanded. "Show us your ID. Tell us about your family. Give us the name of your last job, your last address, something we can verify." Sarah's mind raced. Everything they were asking for would lead back to him. Back to the life she had fought so hard to escape. Back to the man who had sworn he would find her no matter where she ran. "I can't," she whispered. "Can't or won't?" Diane asked triumphantly. "Because it sounds to me like you just admitted you're hiding something." The three women exchanged satisfied looks. They had her cornered, and they knew it. "Here's what's going to happen," Jessica said, leaning against the counter. "You have until tomorrow to come clean about who you really are and what you're running from. If you don't, we're going to the police. We're going to tell them we have a suspicious person living in our neighborhood who refuses to provide any information about her identity or background." "That's not illegal," Sarah said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Maybe not," Monica agreed, "but it will definitely get their attention. And once they start digging, well, I'm betting they'll find whatever it is you're trying so hard to hide." Sarah felt trapped. These women had no idea what they were threatening to do. They didn't understand that drawing official attention to her could get her killed. They thought this was some kind of game, some neighborhood drama to entertain themselves with. "Please," she said quietly, "just leave me alone. I'm not hurting anyone. I just want to live quietly." "Sorry," Diane said, not sounding sorry at all. "That's not how neighborhoods work. We look out for each other, and that means making sure everyone belongs here. And you," Jessica added with a cold smile, "definitely don't belong here." The bell above the door chimed again as the three women gathered their purses and prepared to leave. But before they reached the exit, Jessica turned back. "Oh, and Sarah, don't even think about running. We'll be watching. If you disappear in the middle of the night, we'll know we were right about you, and we'll make sure the police know it too." With that final threat, they swept out of the coffee shop, leaving Sarah standing behind the counter, her hands shaking and her carefully built new life crashing down around her. She looked around at the remaining customers, all of whom were staring at her with newfound suspicion. Word would spread quickly in a town this size. By evening, everyone would know that the quiet woman who worked at the coffee shop was hiding something. By tomorrow, the speculation would be running wild. Sarah sank onto the stool behind the counter and put her head in her hands. She had been so careful. She had followed all the rules, done everything right. She had chosen a new name, a new look, a new life. She had paid cash for everything, never stayed in one place too long, never formed attachments that could be used against her. But she had made one mistake. She had started to feel safe. She had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have a normal life. She had let her guard down, and now it was too late. The afternoon passed in a blur of worried customers and whispered conversations. Sarah went through the motions of making coffee and taking orders, but her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the small suitcase she kept packed in her closet. She was thinking about the cash she had hidden in various places around her apartment. She was thinking about how quickly she could disappear. But Jessica's threat echoed in her mind. They would be watching. If she ran, they would call the police immediately. And once law enforcement got involved, it would only be a matter of time before he found her. As the sun set and the coffee shop emptied out, Sarah realized she was truly trapped. She couldn't stay, and she couldn't go. 3 nosy neighborhood women had managed to do what professional investigators and private detectives had failed to accomplish for 2 years. They had found her. The thought made her laugh, a bitter sound in the empty shop. All those months of careful planning, all those precautions, all that fear, and it came down to 3 women who thought she didn't belong in their perfect neighborhood. Sarah locked the door and turned off the lights, then climbed the narrow stairs to her small apartment above the bakery. She sat on her bed and stared at the suitcase in the closet. Tomorrow, she would have to make a choice. She could tell them the truth and risk everything she had sacrificed to escape. Or she could refuse and watch as they systematically destroyed any chance she had of staying hidden. Either way, her new life was over. As she lay in bed that night, Sarah Martinez, the name she had chosen so carefully, the identity she had built so deliberately, disappeared piece by piece. In her place lay a woman whose real name was classified, whose real story was buried in files marked top secret, and whose real life was connected to a man so dangerous that the government had spent millions of dollars trying to keep her safe from him. Tomorrow, she would have to decide whether to reveal the truth or run again. But tonight, for just a few more hours, she could pretend that she was still just Sarah, the quiet woman who worked at the coffee shop and dreamed of a peaceful life, even though she knew that woman had never really existed at all. The next morning arrived gray and cold, matching Sarah's mood perfectly. She had barely slept, spending most of the night staring at the ceiling and running through her limited options. Each scenario ended the same way, with her carefully constructed life in ruins. She opened the coffee shop an hour late, her hands trembling as she fumbled with the keys. The morning regulars were already waiting outside, and she could see the curiosity in their eyes. Word had definitely spread since yesterday's confrontation. "Everything okay, Sarah?" asked Mr. Peterson, an elderly man who came in every morning for black coffee and a blueberry muffin. But even his kind voice carried an undertone of suspicion that hadn't been there before. "Just running a bit behind today," she replied, forcing a smile as she flipped the sign to open. The morning crowd was different now. People who had always been friendly and warm now watched her with careful eyes. Conversations stopped when she approached tables. Orders were given more curtly, with less of the casual chat that had made this job enjoyable. Sarah knew what was happening. The 3 women had done exactly what they promised. They had planted seeds of doubt throughout the community. Now everyone was looking at her differently, wondering what secrets she might be hiding. At exactly 10 o'clock, the bell chimed, and Jessica, Monica, and Diane walked in. They looked triumphant, like hunters who had cornered their prey. Behind them came 2 other women Sarah didn't recognize, both wearing expensive clothes and carrying themselves with the same entitled confidence. "Good morning, Sarah," Jessica said sweetly, settling onto a stool at the counter. "Sleep well." Sarah ignored the question and focused on wiping down the espresso machine. "What can I get you?" "Actually, we're not here for coffee," Monica announced. "We're here for answers. You had all night to think about our conversation yesterday. So what's it going to be? The truth? Or do we make some phone calls?" The coffee shop had gone quiet again. Sarah could feel every eye in the place focused on her. She looked around at faces that had become familiar over the past 6 months. The businessman who always ordered a double-shot Americano, the young mother who came in after dropping her kids at school, the college student who spent hours studying in the corner booth. They were all watching, all waiting. "I told you yesterday," Sarah said quietly. "My name is Sarah Martinez. I work here. That's all you need to know." "That's not good enough," Diane said, pulling out her phone. "Linda here," she gestured to one of the new women, "works at the bank. She says you've never filled out any forms that would require a social security number. No loan applications, no credit checks, nothing." The woman named Linda nodded importantly. "It's very unusual. Most people your age have some kind of credit history, some financial footprint. You're like a ghost in the system." And Carol, Monica indicated the other newcomer, works at the DMV. "She ran your license plate yesterday. Guess what? That car isn't registered to anyone named Sarah Martinez in this state." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her expression neutral. "There could be paperwork delays. These things happen." "Stop lying," Jessica snapped, her fake sweetness finally cracking. "We know you're not who you say you are. We know you're hiding something. The question is, are you going to tell us what it is, or are we going to have to get creative?" "Get creative how?" Sarah asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Monica smiled coldly. "Well, for starters, we could share what we found with everyone in town. Make sure all the neighbors know they have a mysterious stranger living among them. Someone who lies about her identity, who has no verifiable past, who acts suspicious and secretive. We could organize a neighborhood watch," Diane added. "Make sure someone is always keeping an eye on you, following you when you leave work, watching your apartment, documenting your activities. We could contact the local newspaper," Linda suggested. "I'm sure they'd be interested in a story about a woman with a fake identity living in their community. Who is the mystery woman? Makes a great headline." Sarah felt her world shrinking around her. These women had no idea what they were playing with, but they were systematically destroying every safeguard she had put in place. "Or," Carol said, leaning forward conspiratorially, "you could save us all a lot of trouble and just tell us who you really are and what you're running from." "I'm not running from anything," Sarah said, but the words sounded hollow even to her. "Then prove it," Jessica demanded. "Show us real ID. Give us your real name. Tell us where you came from and why you're here." Sarah stared at them, these 5 women who had appointed themselves judge and jury of her life. They sat there in their expensive clothes with their perfect hair and their perfect lives, completely oblivious to the danger they were creating. "You have no right to interrogate me," she said finally. "We have every right," Monica shot back. "This is our community, our neighborhood, our safety. If you're hiding something that could put us or our families at risk, we need to know." "I'm not a threat to anyone," Sarah insisted. "How do we know that?" Diane asked. "For all we know, you could be a criminal. You could be in witness protection. You could be running from the law. I could be running from an abusive husband," Sarah interrupted, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. The accusation hung in the air, and for a moment, the 5 women looked taken aback. But then Jessica's expression hardened again. If that were true, there would be records, police reports, restraining orders, something. There would be organizations that could verify your story, places that helped you, people who knew you before. "Not if I did it alone," Sarah said desperately. "Not if I had to disappear completely to stay safe." "That's convenient," Monica said skeptically. "An excuse that can't be verified because it's supposed to be secret." "It's not an excuse, it's the truth," Sarah said, her voice rising slightly. "Then, give us details," Linda demanded. "What was his name? Where did you live? What did you leave? If it's true, you should be able to tell us something that proves it." Sarah felt trapped. The story was partially true. She was running from a man who had hurt her. But the details were far more complicated and infinitely more dangerous than a simple case of domestic abuse. "I can't," she whispered. "Can't or won't." Jessica pressed. "Because if you really escaped an abusive situation, there would be people who could vouch for you. Shelters, counselors, police officers, someone." "Not in my case," Sarah said weakly. "How convenient." Carol said with obvious disbelief. A story that explains everything but can't be verified in any way. The women exchanged looks, and Sarah could see they weren't buying it. They had come here looking for drama, for secrets, for something to break up the monotony of their suburban lives. A simple domestic violence escape wasn't exciting enough for them. "Here's what I think," Diane said, standing up and walking around the counter to face Sarah directly. "I think you're making this up. I think you heard us coming and grabbed the first sob story you could think of. I think you're hiding something much bigger than an abusive ex-husband." "That's not true," Sarah said, backing away, but there was nowhere to go. "Then prove it," Monica demanded, also standing. "Call one of these people who supposedly helped you. Give us one name, one number, one person who can confirm your story." "I can't do that," Sarah said. "It would put them in danger." "More convenient excuses," Jessica said, joining her friends and surrounding Sarah behind the counter. "Every question we ask, you have an answer that conveniently can't be verified." The other customers in the coffee shop had stopped pretending to mind their own business. They were openly staring now, some recording with their phones, all waiting to see what would happen next. "This is harassment," Sarah said, looking around for escape routes. "This is community protection," Linda corrected. "And you're going to tell us the truth, one way or another." "What's that supposed to mean?" Sarah asked, though she was afraid she already knew. "It means," Carol said, pulling rope from her large purse, "that we're not leaving here until we get answers." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "What are you doing? You can't be serious." "Dead serious," Monica said, moving to block the exit while the others advanced on Sarah. "We tried asking nicely. We tried giving you the chance to come clean voluntarily. But you keep lying, keep making excuses, keep refusing to prove who you are. So now we're going to make sure you can't run away before we get to the bottom of this," Diane added, grabbing Sarah's arm. "Let go of me." Sarah struggled, but there were too many of them, and they had positioned themselves strategically. "You can't do this. This is kidnapping." "This is a citizen's arrest," Jessica corrected, though her legal knowledge was clearly questionable. "We have reasonable suspicion that you're not who you claim to be, and we're detaining you until the authorities can sort it out." "That's not how citizens' arrests work," Sarah protested, but her voice was muffled as they forced her into a chair and began tying her hands behind her back. The other customers sat frozen, unsure whether to help or call the police or simply watch the drama unfold. This was a small town where nothing exciting ever happened, and the sight of 5 respectable women tying up the mysterious coffee shop worker was unlike anything they had ever witnessed. "Please," Sarah begged, realizing these women were serious. "You don't understand what you're doing. You're going to get people killed." "Stop being dramatic," Monica said, testing the knots on Sarah's wrists. "We're just going to keep you here until the police arrive and you answer some questions." "The police can't help me," Sarah said desperately. "And when word gets out that I've been found, he'll come for me. He'll come for all of you." "Who will come?" Diane demanded. "Your imaginary abusive ex-husband?" "He's not imaginary, and he's not just abusive," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "He's dangerous, professionally dangerous, military dangerous. And if you expose me, if you draw attention to me, he will find me and he will kill me." "Now you're saying he's military?" Linda asked skeptically. "First he was just abusive. Now he's some kind of soldier? Make up your mind." "Special Forces," Sarah whispered. "Navy SEAL. And I'm not lying about the abuse, but it's so much worse than you think. He didn't just hurt me." "Stop," Jessica interrupted. "Just stop with the increasingly dramatic stories. First you're Sarah Martinez with no past. Then you're escaping domestic violence. Now your ex-husband is a Navy SEAL. What's next? He's a spy? You're in witness protection? You're both secret agents." Sarah stared at her, realizing that the truth was so unbelievable that these women would never accept it. She was tied to a chair in a coffee shop by 5 suburban women who thought they were playing neighborhood detective, and the real story would sound like something out of a movie. "I can see in your eyes that you're making up another story right now," Monica said with satisfaction. "But We're done listening to lies. Carol already called the police. They'll be here soon, and you can tell them all your creative stories about Navy SEALs and Special Forces. Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. You called the police? 20 minutes ago, Carol confirmed proudly. They were very interested to hear that we had detained someone using a false identity who was acting suspiciously in our community. No, Sarah whispered, struggling against the ropes. You don't understand. You can't involve the police. Once there's an official report, once my location gets into the system, he'll find me. Good, Diane said coldly. If this Navy SEAL ex-husband of yours really exists, then maybe he can come collect his crazy wife and get her out of our neighborhood. Sarah stared at her in horror. You wanted to find me? We want you gone, Jessica said bluntly. We don't care how it happens. If that means your ex-husband comes to get you, fine. If it means you go to jail for fraud, fine. If it means you run away in the middle of the night, fine. We just want you out of our community. He'll kill me, Sarah said quietly. Then, you shouldn't have lied to us, Monica replied without sympathy. Sarah slumped in the chair, defeat washing over her. After 2 years of careful hiding, of meticulous planning, of sacrificing everything for the chance at safety, it was ending here. In a coffee shop, at the hands of 5 bored women who had no idea what they had just done. The sound of sirens in the distance made everyone in the shop look toward the windows. The police were coming, and, with them, the beginning of the end of Sarah's new life. But what none of them knew, what Sarah herself had tried desperately to forget, was that her husband wasn't just any Navy SEAL. He wasn't just Special Forces. He was something much more dangerous than that. And in exactly 6 hours, when the police report hit the federal databases, he would know exactly where to find her. The police sirens grew louder until 2 patrol cars pulled up outside the coffee shop. Sarah watched through the window as 4 officers stepped out, their faces serious as they surveyed the scene. Her heart pounded so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Finally, Jessica said with satisfaction, "Now we can get some real answers." The first officer through the door was Sergeant Mike Torres, a man in his 40s with kind eyes and graying temples. Sarah had seen him around town before. He sometimes stopped by for coffee during his shifts. Today, however, he looked all business. "We got a call about a disturbance," he said, taking in the scene of Sarah tied to a chair surrounded by 5 well-dressed women. "Can someone explain what's happening here?" "Officer Torres," Monica stepped forward importantly, "we've detained this woman because she's been living in our community under false pretenses. She refuses to provide proper identification and has been acting suspiciously for months." Sergeant Torres looked from Monica to Sarah, his expression unreadable. "Ma'am, did these women tie you to this chair?" "Yes," Sarah said quietly. "And did you consent to being restrained?" "No, I did not." Torres nodded and turned to his partner, Officer Janet Kim. "Janet, could you please untie her?" "Ladies, I need you to step back." "Wait," Diane protested. "She's going to run if you untie her. She's been lying about who she is. Her name isn't really Sarah Martinez." "How do you know that?" Torres asked as Officer Kim worked on the ropes binding Sarah's wrists. "We investigated," Jessica said proudly. "Her car isn't registered under that name. She has no credit history, no verifiable background, nothing. She's obviously using a fake identity." Torres raised an eyebrow. "You investigated? Are you law enforcement officers?" "Well, no, but are you private investigators licensed by the state?" "No, but we're concerned citizens. What you are," Torres interrupted firmly, "is 5 women who just committed assault, kidnapping, and unlawful detention. Officer Kim, please read these ladies their rights." "What?" Monica shrieked. "We were protecting our community. She's the criminal here." "From what I can see," Torres replied calmly, "the only crimes committed here were by you 5. Miss," he turned to Sarah as Officer Kim finished untying her. "Are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" Sarah rubbed her wrists where the ropes had chafed them. "I'm okay physically." "Good. Now, can I see some identification, please?" Sarah's heart sank. This was the moment she had been dreading. She reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out her driver's license. The license that would lead them down a rabbit hole she desperately wanted to avoid. Torres examined the license carefully, then looked at Sarah with new interest. "This says your name is Sarah Martinez, and you live at 127 Oak Street, apartment 2B. That's correct. But these ladies say this isn't your real name?" Sarah looked around the coffee shop. Word would spread, no matter what she said now. The damage was already done. "It's complicated." "How complicated?" Torres asked gently. "Very," Sarah whispered. Torres studied her face for a long moment, then glanced at his partner. "Ladies, I need you all to sit down over there while I sort this out. And if any of you try to leave, you'll be arrested immediately." The 5 women reluctantly moved to a table in the corner, all talking at once in hushed, angry whispers. Torres turned his attention back to Sarah. "Miss Martinez, or whatever your real name is, I need you to be honest with me. Are you in some kind of trouble? Are you running from something?" Sarah looked into his kind eyes and made a decision that terrified her. "Yes." "What kind of trouble?" "The kind where telling you the truth could get both of us killed," she said quietly. Torres's expression grew serious. "Are we talking about organized crime? Witness protection? We're talking about classified government operations and a man who was trained to kill by the United States Navy," Sarah replied, her voice barely audible. "Your husband?" Sarah nodded. "Ex-husband. Commander Marcus Reed, Navy SEALs, currently assigned to DevGru." Torres went very still. DevGru was SEAL Team 6, the most elite special operations unit in the military. "Miss, that's a very serious accusation." "It's not an accusation, it's the truth. And now that you're going to run my information through your system, now that there's going to be an official record of this incident, he's going to find me." "Why would your ex-husband be looking for you?" Sarah closed her eyes. "Because 2 years ago, I discovered that he wasn't just physically abusive. He was using his military connections to run weapons to terrorist organizations. When I tried to report it, he tried to kill me. I've been hiding ever since." The coffee shop went dead silent. Everyone was straining to hear what Sarah was saying, and her words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. "That's a very serious allegation," Torres said carefully. "I know how it sounds," Sarah replied, "but I have proof. I have documents, photographs, financial records. I've been waiting for the right time to turn them over to the right people." "Why haven't you gone to the FBI?" "Because I don't know who I can trust. Marcus has contacts throughout law enforcement and intelligence agencies. I've been trying to find someone high enough up the chain who couldn't be compromised." Torres looked at Officer Kim, who had gone pale during Sarah's explanation. "Kim, I need you to call this into the feds. Tell them we have a potential military security issue." "Don't," Sarah said urgently. "Please. Every official report, every communication, every database entry creates a trail he can follow. I've managed to stay hidden for 2 years because I've been invisible. But now," she gestured around the coffee shop, where everyone was staring at her with mixtures of fear, fascination, and disbelief. "Now everyone knows something is wrong," Torres finished. "He'll come," Sarah said simply. "Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but he'll come. And when he does, anyone who knows about me will be in danger." From their table in the corner, Jessica called out, "This is ridiculous. She's making all of this up. She probably got this story from a movie or a book." "Yeah," Monica added. "First, she was just Sarah Martinez with no past. Then, she was escaping domestic abuse. Now her ex-husband is some kind of super soldier spy. What's next?" Torres looked at the women with disapproval. "Ladies, you've done enough damage today. We exposed a fraud." Diane protested. "You exposed yourselves as criminals," Torres replied sharply. Then, he turned back to Sarah. "Can you prove any of what you're telling me?" Sarah hesitated. "If I show you the proof, there's no going back. Once you see what I have, you become a target too. I'm willing to take that risk." Sarah studied his face, tried to decide if she could trust him. After 2 years of trusting no one, it was a difficult decision. But she was out of options. "My real name is Lieutenant Commander Elena Vasquez, United States Navy, Intelligence Division. 2 years ago, I was assigned to investigate irregularities in weapons transfers from overseas operations. That's when I discovered that my husband was selling military-grade weapons to anyone willing to pay, including terrorist organizations. Torres and Officer Kim exchanged glances. This was way above their pay grade. When I confronted him with the evidence, he tried to kill me, Sarah continued. Made it look like a car accident. I barely escaped. I've been in hiding ever since, trying to figure out how to expose him without getting myself killed. Why didn't you go through proper military channels? Torres asked. Because the corruption goes higher than just Marcus. He has protection, people covering for him. I tried to report it through official channels, but my superiors told me to drop the investigation. When I refused, that's when Marcus got the order to eliminate me. The weight of her words settled over everyone in the coffee shop. This wasn't just a domestic dispute or a case of mistaken identity. This was a military conspiracy involving treason, murder, and international terrorism. I need to see this evidence, Torres said. Sarah nodded reluctantly. It's hidden in my apartment. But once I show it to you, there's no turning back. Marcus will know someone has it, and he'll do whatever it takes to get it back and eliminate any witnesses. How will he know? Because he has people monitoring law enforcement databases for any mention of my real name or any of the operation names mentioned in the documents. The moment you file a report about this, alarms will start going off. Torres ran a hand through his hair, clearly in over his head. Miss Vasquez or Martinez or whatever name you want to use. This is a federal matter. I have to involve the FBI. Then, we're all dead, Sarah said matter-of-factly. What do you mean? I mean Marcus doesn't leave loose ends. Anyone who knows about his operation, anyone who's seen the evidence, anyone who could testify against him, they all disappear. Car accidents, home invasions, suicides. He's very good at making murders look like accidents. Officer Kim spoke up for the first time. How do we know you're telling the truth? How do we know you're not just a mentally unstable woman making up elaborate stories? Sarah looked at her steadily. Because in about 4 hours, when this incident hits the federal databases, you'll know for sure. If I'm lying, nothing will happen. If I'm telling the truth, this town is about to become very dangerous. What do you mean? Torres asked. I mean, Marcus will come here personally to clean up this mess. And when he does, everyone in this coffee shop today will be at risk. Everyone who heard my story, everyone who knows I'm here, everyone who could potentially cause him problems. The 5 women at the corner table had gone very quiet, finally beginning to understand that they might have stumbled into something far more dangerous than they had imagined. You're trying to scare us, Jessica said, but her voice lacked its earlier confidence. I'm trying to save your lives, Sarah replied. You wanted to know who I really am? Now you do. You wanted to expose my secrets? Congratulations. But you have no idea what you've unleashed. Torres looked around the coffee shop at the frightened faces staring back at him. His training told him to follow protocol, to involve the proper authorities, to let federal agents handle this situation. But his instincts told him that this woman was telling the truth and that following protocol might get a lot of innocent people killed. What do you suggest we do? He asked Sarah. Evacuate the town, she said simply. Get everyone as far away from here as possible. Because when Marcus comes, he won't care about collateral damage. He'll burn this whole place down if that's what it takes to eliminate the evidence. We can't evacuate an entire town based on the word of one woman. Officer Kim protested. Then, you better hope I'm lying, Sarah replied grimly. Torres made a decision. Kim, I want you to call the state police and the FBI. Tell them we have a situation that needs immediate federal attention. Don't mention any details over the radio. What about the locals? Kim asked. Torres looked around at the terrified faces in the coffee shop. We keep this quiet until we know more. The last thing we need is panic. But it was too late for that. Within an hour, word would spread throughout the small town that the quiet woman who worked at the coffee shop was actually a Navy intelligence officer hiding from her murderous ex-husband. By evening, everyone would know about the weapons trafficking, the government conspiracy, and the deadly special forces operator who was supposedly coming to silence anyone who knew the truth. And in 6 hours, when the federal databases processed the incident report, Commander Marcus Reed, would receive an automated alert that his wife had been found. The hunt was about to begin. 6 hours and 23 minutes after Sergeant Torres filed his incident report, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled into the parking lot of the Pine Haven Motel, 3 miles outside of town. The driver sat motionless for several minutes, studying the quiet streets through tactical surveillance equipment that most civilians would never see. Commander Marcus Reed looked exactly like what he was, a predator bred and trained by the United States military to eliminate threats with surgical precision. At 6'2", with steel-gray eyes and scars that told stories of classified operations, he commanded attention even when trying to blend in. Today, however, he wasn't trying to blend in. Today, he was hunting. His phone buzzed with an encrypted message. Target confirmed. Local law enforcement involved. Civilians compromised. Authorization granted for full cleanup. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. After 2 years of searching, his treacherous wife had finally made a mistake. She had always been too soft, too trusting, too willing to believe in the basic decency of ordinary people. It was what had made her a good intelligence officer, and what would now get her killed. He opened his tactical case and began assembling his gear. Tonight's operation would be simple. Locate Elena, retrieve the evidence she had stolen, and eliminate all witnesses. The fact that innocent civilians had gotten involved was unfortunate but irrelevant. Marcus had long ago learned that collateral damage was just another cost of doing business. Meanwhile, back in town, Sergeant Torres was dealing with a crisis that grew more complicated by the hour. The FBI agents had arrived that afternoon, taken one look at Elena's evidence, and immediately called for backup. The weapons trafficking operation she had uncovered was bigger than anyone had imagined, involving multiple military units, defense contractors, and foreign governments. This is a national security nightmare, Agent Sandra Morrison told Torres as they stood in the police station parking lot. If this information goes public, it could destabilize multiple international alliances. What about the people in this town? Torres asked. If Commander Reed is as dangerous as his wife claims, we need to get them to safety. We're working on that, Morrison replied, but her tone suggested they weren't working fast enough. Elena sat in an interview room, having spent the past 6 hours going through every detail of her husband's operation with federal agents. The evidence she had hidden for 2 years painted a picture of corruption that reached into the highest levels of military command. Marcus hadn't just been selling weapons. He had been providing intelligence about American operations to enemy forces, getting soldiers killed for profit. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Agent Morrison asked during one of many interviews. Because I knew what would happen, Elena replied tiredly. Marcus has people everywhere. The moment I surfaced, they would have found me and eliminated me before I could testify. What makes you think tonight will be different? Because now you have the evidence. Even if he kills me, the truth is already out. Agent Morrison looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Reed, I need you to understand something. Your husband's operation involves people with significant resources and political connections. Even with your evidence, actually bringing charges may be complicated. Elena stared at her. You're going to cover this up. We're going to pursue justice through appropriate channels. Morrison replied carefully. That's bureaucratic speak for a cover-up, Elena said bitterly. You're going to bury this because it's too embarrassing, too complicated, too damaging to national security. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Elena laughed humorlessly. I should have known. I risked everything, sacrificed 2 years of my life, put innocent people in danger, all to expose corruption that you're just going to sweep under the rug anyway. Before Agent Morrison could respond, her radio crackled to life. Agent Morrison, we have movement on the perimeter. Unknown vehicle, military-grade countermeasures detected. Elena went rigid. He's here. How can you be sure? Because Marcus never travels alone, and he always scouts his target before moving. How many vehicles? Agent Morrison spoke into her radio. Control, how many vehicles are we tracking? Just one, but it's got electronic warfare capabilities. We're getting interference with our surveillance equipment. That's not how Marcus operates, Elena said, confusion creeping into her voice. He always has backup, always has multiple exit strategies. Why would he come alone? Before anyone could answer, the lights in the police station went out. Emergency generators kicked in seconds later, but the brief darkness was enough to send everyone into high alert. He's making his move, Agent Morrison said, drawing her weapon. But Elena was shaking her head. This is wrong. Marcus doesn't announce himself like this. He doesn't take unnecessary risks. This isn't how he... The front door of the police station exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped a figure in full tactical gear, body armor, night vision goggles, military-grade weaponry. But something was off. The person was smaller than Marcus, moving differently, using tactics that Elena recognized but couldn't quite place. Federal agents, drop your weapons. Agent Morrison shouted. The figure ignored her and spoke in a voice distorted by electronic equipment. I'm here for Elena Vasquez. Send her out, and no one else gets hurt. Elena felt her blood turn to ice, but not because of the threat. She recognized something in the voice, something that made no sense, but that she couldn't deny. That's not Marcus, she whispered. What? Agent Morrison glanced at her without lowering her weapon. That's not my husband. The voice, the stance, the equipment, it's all wrong. The tactical figure moved further into the building, and Elena caught a glimpse of exposed skin at the wrist. A tattoo, a small anchor symbol that she had seen before. Oh my God, she breathed. Ryan. The figure went still. Ryan, is that you? Elena called out, louder this time. Slowly, the figure reached up and removed the tactical helmet, revealing a young man with dark hair and Elena's own brown eyes. Hello, said Lieutenant Ryan Vasquez, United States Navy. The police station fell silent, except for the sound of Elena's sharp intake of breath. Agent Morrison looked between them in confusion, her weapon still trained on the newcomer. Your son? She asked Elena. My son, Elena confirmed, her voice breaking. Ryan, what are you doing here? How did you find me? Ryan's expression was cold, professional, nothing like the warm boy Elena remembered. I've been tracking you for 6 months, Mom. Ever since Marcus told me what you did. What I did. Elena stared at her son in disbelief. Ryan, Marcus tried to kill me. He's a traitor. He's been selling weapons to terrorists. I know, Ryan said simply. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. You know, I've been working with him for 3 years, Mom. Ever since I graduated from SEAL training. Did you think it was a coincidence that I got assigned to the same command structure as your husband? Elena felt the world spinning around her. No, that's not possible. You're my son. You're one of the good guys. Ryan laughed, and the sound was bitter. Good guys? Mom, you have no idea how the world really works. Marcus opened my eyes to reality. American soldiers die every day protecting oil profits and corporate interests. At least Marcus found a way to make it profitable for us too. Ryan, listen to yourself. You're talking about treason. I'm talking about survival, Ryan replied coldly. And unfortunately, you've become a threat to that survival. Agent Morrison finally found her voice. Son, I need you to put down your weapons and surrender. You're vastly outnumbered here. Ryan smiled, and Elena saw Marcus's influence in that expression. Am I? Outside, the sound of helicopters filled the air. But these weren't FBI helicopters. Elena could tell by the rotor's signature that they were military aircraft. Ryan, what have you done? She whispered. I called in some favors, Ryan replied. Turns out there are a lot of people who want the evidence you've collected to disappear permanently. And they're willing to pay handsomely for that service. The implications hit Elena like a tidal wave. Her son hadn't come to rescue her or protect her. He had come to kill her. The boy she had raised, the son she had sacrificed everything to protect, had been turned against her by the man who had tried to murder her. How long? She asked quietly. How long what? How long have you been working for him? How long have you been planning to betray me? Ryan's expression didn't change. Since the day you disappeared, Mom. Marcus told me you had stolen classified information and gone rogue. He said you were a traitor to your country and your family. He said the only way to protect both was to bring you home. And you believed him? I believe the evidence. I've seen the bank accounts, Mom. The money you've been hiding offshore. The contacts you've made with foreign intelligence services. The classified information you've been selling. Elena stared at her son in horror. That's all fabricated. Marcus created false evidence to turn you against me. Maybe, Ryan admitted. But it doesn't matter now. Too many people know where you are. Too many witnesses have heard your story. The operation has been compromised, and that means everyone involved needs to be eliminated. Including me? Including everyone in this building, Ryan said with finality. Agent Morrison spoke into her radio urgently. Control, we need immediate backup. We have a hostile military unit incoming and a compromised situation inside. But the radio only crackled with static. The electronic warfare equipment Ryan had mentioned was jamming all communications. It's over, Mom, Ryan said, raising his weapon. I'm sorry it has to end this way, but you made your choice when you decided to betray your family and your country. Elena looked at her son, the child she had given birth to, raised, loved, and protected, and saw only cold calculation in his eyes. Marcus had done more than turn Ryan against her. He had turned him into a killer, just like himself. I love you, she said quietly. For just a moment, something flickered in Ryan's expression. A hint of the boy she remembered, the son she had lost to Marcus's manipulation and military training. But then it was gone. I know, Ryan said and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the police station, but Elena was already moving. 2 years of living in fear had honed her survival instincts to a razor's edge. She rolled behind a desk as the bullet shattered the wall where her head had been. Agent Morrison opened fire, her shots forcing Ryan to take cover. Other federal agents in the building joined the firefight, but Elena knew it was only a matter of time before Ryan's backup arrived. She crawled toward the rear exit, staying low as bullets flew overhead. She had one chance to escape, one opportunity to disappear before Marcus's people surrounded the building. But as she reached the back door, she heard Ryan's voice calling after her. You can't run forever, Mom. Marcus knows where you are now. He'll never stop hunting you. Elena paused at the threshold, looking back at her son one last time. The boy she had loved was gone, replaced by a weapon that Marcus had forged specifically to destroy her. There was nothing left to save. She stepped into the night and ran, leaving behind the last connection to her old life. Behind her, the sound of gunfire continued as federal agents fought against her own son and the corrupt military unit that had come to silence the truth. Elena Vasquez disappeared into the darkness, knowing that she would be running for the rest of her life. But she was still alive, and that meant the truth might survive too, even if everything else was lost.